Hello, everybody. How y'all doing this morning? Has anybody ever seen me talk before? No? No? Yeah, there you go. Well, just so you know, my name is Randolph Love, and I truly believe, can everybody hear me first of all? You can't hear me? Oh, she gonna keep saying no. I asked her, can she not hear me? And she said no. Everybody, I truly believe that all truths are parallel, right? What's usually workable in one facet of life and true in another facet of life is true in another, right? Before you drink something, you need to know the source of where that drink is coming from, right? Before you eat something, you need to know the source of where that food is coming from, right? The same goes with knowledge. You need to know where your knowledge is coming from. Just so you know, I've been in the insurance and financial services industry for over a decade. Over the past 2 years, I've taught over 1,000 adult students when it came to continuing education and pre-licensing. I am a registered continuing education and pre-licensing provider for the Florida Department of Financial Services, and I'm a continuing education provider for the community association managers. So I know a little something, right? And I just want to share some knowledge with y'all. But before I get into the knowledge, I want to let you know that I am not an attorney, all right? And this is information, not advice. I'm going to say this is information. You say not advice. This is information. Not advice. This is information. Not advice. Let me hear if y'all got a singing voice. This is information. Yeah, I like it. All right, y'all. So I'm going to start it off like this, right? I like to touch the right side of the brain and then the left side of the brain, meaning I like to give you comparisons and then I like to give you data, all right? Has anybody ever heard of Farmer Jed? There's a lot of farmers out here, but y'all probably never heard of Farmer Jed. So Farmer Jed has been doing good with his life, right? He's been doing so well with farming and raising money and all that throughout his life that he has got this huge estate, right? The house looks good. He has a pool house. He has a nice maze built out of bushes. He's done very well for himself. And guess what? Farmer Jed has one beneficiary, his daughter, Ellie Mae, right? And all of y'all might know Ellie Mae, somebody who was, you say, y'all was about to marry Farmer Jed till Ellie Mae came in. All right, well, Ellie Mae, you might have a chance, right? Because let me tell you what's happening with Ellie Mae. Even though Farmer Jed really knows that his daughter can handle this huge estate whenever he passes away, he wants to give her some help, right? So what he did was he sent out a mailer to all of the eligible bachelors in this small town. And he said, I want you to come over to my house. I want you to eat my food and I want you to drink my drink. And they all came and they had a great time. And at the end of the night, Farmer Jed took all the eligible bachelors to the backyard and he said, and I'm going to tell you why I really brought you here. I'm on a mission. And if you jump in this pool and swim from one side to the other, I'm going to give you one of three things. One, I'll give you $1 million. Right? Right? And that's $1 million back in the day, right? Two, I'll give you my estate, this beautiful house, this beautiful pool house, this nice manicured lawn. Or three, I'll give you my daughter's hand in marriage. And keep in mind, if you get my daughter's hand in marriage, you get everything, right? So what did they do? He said, well, I know I just told you just got to jump in this pool and swim from the one side or the other, but just so you know, there are crocodiles in this pool. There are snakes in this pool. There are piranha in this pool. If you can jump in this pool and get from one side to the other, and before he could finish his sentence, he heard a splash. And then in 6.4 seconds, John came from the other side of the pool. And Farmer Jed said, congratulations, son. You just made it in a world record time. You must want $1 million. And John, still out of breath, he said, no, I don't want $1 million. He said, well, you must want my estate, my beautiful property, my beautiful pool house. And John said, no, I don't want your estate. And then Farmer Jed said, well, hot dog, son, welcome to the family. You must want my daughter Ellie Mae's hand in marriage. He said, no, sir, this is a small town, and we all know Ellie Mae. Nobody here wants to marry Ellie Mae, right? The Farmer Jed said, watch your mouth, son. But if you don't want $1 million, if you don't want my estate, if you don't want an Ellie Mae, what do you want? He said, I want to know the name of the man who pushed me in that pool. And it's funny, right? Every time I tell that, everybody laughs. But what did I say at the top of this? All truths are parallel. What are going to happen when somebody pushes you in the pool, metaphorically speaking? When you get that call in the middle of the night that your daughter or your son was just in an accident, now all of a sudden, you thought you were through raising kids, right? Now all of a sudden you got some kids to raise. Or maybe your spouse went out like they normally do to go down to the store. Now they can't remember how to get home, right? What happens when you get pushed in that pool, metaphorically speaking? You have to have a plan ahead of time instead of after something happens. You have to be proactive and not reactive. There you go. I'll take that clap. So I'm going to name some things that probably some of y'all might be experiencing, and maybe knowing that it's an issue, it might encourage you to change. All right. So anybody here, what would happen if you were involved in an accident, you were unconscious, and your adult children arrived to get some information about what's going on with you and to make decisions on your behalf? Who knows what would happen? Does anybody have a HIPAA-compliant healthcare alternative? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there anybody here that hasn't heard of a HIPAA-compliant healthcare alternative? Raise your hand. HIPAA-compliant healthcare alternative. Basically what it does is it gives permission for somebody to come to the hospital and figure out what's going on with you. And it also gives them the permission based off certain criteria, threshold that needs to be met for them to make decisions on your behalf. So if you or your adult children are relying on each other, you need to look into a HIPAA-compliant healthcare alternative. How many people in here watch their grandchildren? Anybody? What happens if your grandchild breaks their leg while they're with you or hurts their arm and you don't have this HIPAA-compliant healthcare alternative? If you are a grandparent who's watching your children, or you are a parent with adult children, you need a HIPAA-compliant healthcare alternative. Anybody in here still married? Happily? Put your hand down. I'm just joking. Did y'all know that even though you're married, if you do not have your HIPAA-compliant healthcare alternative, legally you can't get any information on your spouse? Even if you were married for 10, 20, 30 years, you need your HIPAA-compliant healthcare alternative. So that's the first tip that I want to put in front of y'all face. If y'all don't have it, please look into it and look into somebody to help you get it. Anybody ever heard of a financial power of attorney? Same scenario. What happens if your spouse was involved in an accident? Now they're incapacitated. Their Medicare has run out. Their Medicaid has run out. Did y'all know that Medicare and Medicaid have lifetime limits? Yes. So what happens when they're incapacitated? They need to go to another facility. He has the money in a qualified retirement account. So what you do is you call his financial advisor and you say, hey, my husband was just involved in an accident. He's unconscious. We're going to have to pull out a lump sum of money for this qualified retirement account so we can move him to another facility. That's when the financial advisor is going to say, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Just send me his death certificate and I'll get right on that for you. And that's when you're going to say, no, you must didn't hear me correctly. He didn't die. He's just unconscious right now. And that's when you're going to get the rude awakening that if you do not have a financial power of attorney in place with your spouse, that they cannot do nothing for you. The only time that you have power with this qualified retirement account is if that your spouse dies. It does not count if they are just unconscious. So if you do not have a HIPAA-compliant healthcare alternative in place or a financial power of attorney in place, you need to get that. Because another thing that it solves, anybody ever heard of conservatorship? What happens when, like I said, that spouse that's normally on top of everything goes to the store and that same normal, mundane, routine trip that they always make, they can't make it back? If you do this in advance, get your HIPAA-compliant healthcare power of attorney in place, get your financial power of attorney in place, you don't have to worry about all that conservatorship stuff because you already took care of it. The reason why the conservatorship comes into play is because you cannot get somebody who doesn't have capacity to sign papers. But if you got the papers signed before they lost capacity, then you made sure everything. All right, cool. Anybody know the difference between a will and a trust? Does anybody here have a will? Does anybody here have a trust? There you go. Let me ask you this question. What's better, a will or a trust? Everybody know a trust is better, but why doesn't everybody have it, right? Because, and just so anybody knows, the reason why a trust is better than a will is usually when people get wills put in place, they're trying to avoid probate. Has anybody ever been through probate? It was the best time of your life.
No.
Exactly. It's a terrible thing. Now, there's a time and place for probate. Probate is put into place for if somebody owes any bills after their death, then whoever these creditors are vendors, they can come and collect their money. It's not meant to do what our culture has been doing. I grew up thinking that probate was required. I thought it was required that you have to spend all this money on attorneys. I thought it was required that you had to spend all this money on courts. I thought it was required that it would take 2+ years for your probate to be complete. I thought it was required that the most responsible child is on the hook for paying all of the bills, and then the other children don't have to pay nothing, but they don't want to sign no papers. You paying all the bills, but they not letting you make any moves or decisions with this property. What ends up happening with the family property if the most responsible one gets tired of paying it? It goes away. All right. So what's better, a will or a trust? A trust is better if you want to avoid probate. Right. So let me ask y'all this. I think everybody agrees that it's a good idea to avoid probate. Anybody think it's not a good idea to avoid probate? So if you think it's a good idea to avoid probate, has anybody ever heard, all I have to do is put my child's name on my deed and my child's name on my bank account, and I just avoided probate? Has anybody ever heard that? Anybody think that's a good idea? No. What's the reason it's not a good idea? Does anybody know? Well, let me tell you. What happens if your child goes through bankruptcy, goes through a lawsuit, or goes through a divorce, and this attorney that's on the other side does a skip trace on them? Guess whose name that they see is on your bank accounts? Guess whose name that they see is on your real estate? Guess whose name that they see is on these other assets? So yes, you just successfully avoided probate. Congratulations. But what you just did was invited other dangers into your life. Imagine having a house that you've already had paid off for years. Now, all of a sudden that your daughter or your son is going through a divorce. Now you have to take out a second mortgage to give her part. Because if you and your child's name is on your property, technically it's 50-50 ownership. So if it's a $500,000 house, your son or your daughter, their part of it is $250,000. And if they're going through a divorce, that ex-spouse part of it is at $125,000. So once again, that's called joint tenancy. So we talked about HIPAA-compliant healthcare alternative. We talked about financial power of attorney. And now we're talking about joint tenancy. The same goes with the bank accounts. All right. How about this? Has anybody ever heard that if you just name your child or your beneficiary as the direct beneficiary of your qualified retirement accounts, of your bank accounts, that you don't have to go through probate? Anybody ever heard that? What happens if the person that you named as your direct beneficiary died in the same accident that you just did? And this child, because listen, I know y'all not going to admit it, but if you got multiple kids, one of your kids is your favorite. If you got multiple grandchildren, one of your grandchildren, y'all got favorites. Y'all might not say it out loud, but you have favorites. So what happens if your child that was in this same accident that you were in died? You just mistakenly, involuntarily just disinherited your favorite grandchildren. And guess who's going to get the money now? That child that don't call you, the one that don't visit you, the one that don't take the time to do the simple things that you ask for them to know, for you to know that they care, right? Now, all of a sudden it goes to them. Now, I'm not saying that you have to disinherit a child. I do have a box that you check if you want to disinherit a child. But I'm not saying that that's what you want to do, but you want everything to happen the way you want it to happen. So everybody go with me. HIPAA compliant healthcare alternative, financial power of attorney, Joint tenancy might not be a good idea, and that's when you put the name of a person on the deed of your property on your account. And direct beneficiaries might not be a good idea. It might be a good idea for you to name the trust as the beneficiary, because guess what happens? Whenever you name somebody as a direct beneficiary, they cannot stop the money. Do y'all know what that means? And I know some of y'all thinking like, why would I want to stop money? What happens is when you are passing away, when you die, that at that same time that your child is going through that lawsuit, going through that bankruptcy, going through that divorce. If you're working with somebody like myself, when you pass away, I'm going to bring your child in and I'm going to say, hey, I'm sorry for your loss. My condolences. And then of course, they're going to say thank you. And then I'm going to ask your child, I'm going to ask them, how's the marriage? And then, of course, they're going to say what most people say, right? Oh, it's great, right? And then I'm going to go and I'm going to shut the door and I'm saying, no, really, how's the marriage? And then that's when they're going to tell me whatever they tell me. And then because you name your trust as the beneficiary, instead of them directly, now if they need to stop the money, they can. And they never technically took possession of it. So now it's not adversely affecting them with their taxes. Now it's not going to get included in a lawsuit, in a bankruptcy, in a divorce, and their creditors can't get to it. One additional disadvantage, if you name somebody as a direct beneficiary, what happens when their creditors find out that they just got a lump sum of money? They coming for it. But if you name a trust as a beneficiary and it has a spendthrift clause in it, basically what you're saying is, even though this money just went to my trust, even though my child is the direct beneficiary of my trust, because it went to the trust first and it has a spendthrift clause, y'all can't touch it. And your child is able to go pull from the money whenever they need the money per your instructions. Okay? So once again, HIPAA-compliant healthcare alternative, financial power of attorney. You might want to think twice about joint tenancy. You might want to think twice about naming a person as a direct beneficiary. Now, does anybody know that when you go through probate, you have to put your estate up in the newspaper for at least 3 weeks? Anybody knew that? So who knows what a cul-de-sac is? All right, so for anybody that don't know what a cul-de-sac is, when you drive into a neighborhood and then it ends in like a dead end and it has this big round circle and there's houses around the circle, that's a cul-de-sac. And I think my mama was to love cul-de-sacs when I was growing up, because I thought all there was cul-de-sacs, because we grew up on at least 3 cul-de-sacs. And one thing I noticed in every neighborhood, there was always this neighborhood cat that would lay in the middle of the street, right? And it was cute, right? But because I learned from experience, I knew it was only a matter of time. Because guess what happens? When 99 out of 100 people see that cat laying in the middle of the cul-de-sac, what they're going to do? They're going to go around, right? What about that one sociopath? If they see that cat in the middle of the street, they are going to run over that cat, right? The same goes by putting your estate in the newspaper. Here's the thing. Whenever you put run your estate through a trust, everything is private. You don't have to go through probate. But what happens when you put your estate in the newspaper? Somebody that don't even know you, somebody that don't even know your family, somebody that you don't even owe is going to contest your trust. Not your trust, your will. They're going to contest your estate, because to them, your estate is like that cat laying in the middle of the street. Because here's the thing, the different cities, counties, states, they know that people have little money. So what they do is they put caps on how much an attorney can charge you for probate and how much a court can charge you for probate. Do y'all know what the exception is for them to remove all caps and charge you whatever they want? If it's contested. So this person that probably has no chance of beating you is going to contest your estate. And now all of your fee caps have been removed. And now they're causing you turmoil and trouble, even if they have no chance of winning. So you want to make sure that you try to avoid probate. So what's better, a will or a trust? And why is it better? It's private. It helps you avoid Probate. All right, y'all. So this is something that I do. If you want to get a visual of how we do this, text Legacy 24, and that's LAGACY 24. No spaces, no dashes. LEGACY 24. LEGACY 24. No spaces, no dashes, and you text that to 904-822-4262. That's 904-822-4262. Does anybody have any questions? And my time is short, so that's why I'm giving it to you. 904-822-4262. And that's Legacy 24, no spaces, no dashes, LAGACY 24. And I do have a few amount of booklets. If anybody want a booklet, I'll pass it back to you. All right, here you go. First come, first serve, y'all. We coming around. Yes, ma'am. Here you go. Oh, yeah, I see you. Good to see you again.
I must really like your presentations. I show them all.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad. Oh, yeah, get that.
I think I got one.
You want one, man?
I think I got one when we was at Tuscaloosa.
Okay. Here y'all go.
Thank you.
It's coming. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Oh, appreciate y'all. We coming around. And I'm going to grab some more copies, y'all. Here you go. Here you go. And if anybody didn't get a copy, I'm going to bring some. Okay.
I have a question for you too.
Yes, sir.
What I need? Let me tell you. Okay. Say for instance, on my saving.
Okay, she said you.
Okay. So I woke up.
I'm sorry. Hey, everybody, do you know what a CDC is? 608 Dibble. How do you? I'm gonna go grab it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. On my account at the bank, my son's name is on it. It's supposed to. What happened if somebody want to go after sue him after the money? Would that affect my money?
If they decide to include you, yes, sir. And legally they can.
They can take my money to add it.
They could include it in whatever the lawsuit is as a part of his income because his name is on it.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So therefore, explain to me about this trust. Could I put a trust on?
Yes, sir. What you would do is you would name your son as the beneficiary of your trust, and instead of putting his name on it, you would put the trust name on it. And that way he'll have access to it.
You finished?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't know.
And if you guys need some more of the handouts, are you going to bring some?
Yes, I'm about to go grab them now.
Okay. So he's going to go grab some more of those booklets. So if you guys want to review those,
I talked to
if you want a copy of those, you get that when he comes back. All right. So